Hey, what's up everybody? Ed the Pond Professor here. We're in Chicago area. We just got a bunch of snow last night and today is the first day we're starting our intake bay. This is a natural pond. What I mean by a natural pond is clay bottom, no rubber lining or anything like that. They do have high groundwater here that is seeping in from surrounding properties. So what we're trying to do here is we're gonna put in a pumping system. That pumping system is gonna be located right where the machine is at. You can see that big bucket sitting there. We're gonna dig into that hillside. We're gonna make a connection between the pump area and the pond. That's going to create kind of a channel of water flowing inside of that section. That's going to act as a pre-filter. From there, the water is going to get pumped through a series of 3-inch pipes. It's going to go up that back side. The water is going to get discharged into a series of different areas. It's going to be a couple waterfalls, some decorative fountains of some sort. This is the area that they call the dance floor. There's a swimming pool on the other side. This is all a brand new addition that's been added onto the home. So you have all these windows are facing either towards the stream and waterfall or towards the natural pond over on this side. There is a beach area over here for kids, grandkids to play, relax. So what we're trying to do is we're gonna connect these two spaces. Swimming pool, outdoor patios, sit and enjoy the different views by having a waterfall cascading down through this section here. It's going to connect back over into the pond. There's going to be a series of bridges going across the stream in multiple places. That's going to connect up with walking trails that are going around the outside perimeter of the property. You can see a beautiful bridge over here in the back. There's going to be another one that's going to match that. Here's some of our stone that's been staged. So what we're trying to do today is get this section done down below. Now some of the challenges that we could have, just like any type of a challenge on a construction project, we don't know what the soil conditions are going to be like. We might be digging down, we may hit groundwater, we may not. We have a series of different deliveries coming in today. We have crushed stone, we have our aqua blocks, we have geotextiles, we have liners, all these different things that we're going to need to actually put this intake bay in place. So this is going to be a really cool project. There are millions, literally millions of ponds like this throughout the world, and these are used for a variety of purposes. Everything from stormwater management, irrigation on farm properties, fire suppression, for habitat, for fishing, you name it, for swimming, recreation, all different types of uses of these ponds. But a lot of them, they're very, very basic. They don't have a lot of aquatic life. What we want to try to do is increase the overall circulation. We want to increase the dissolved oxygen, and that's all going to start right over here with the intake bay. Excavation has begun. We laid this out earlier, so this is going to be where our intake bay is located. So all the aqua blocks and everything are going to be located on this section here. We will eventually make a channel to connect the water into the intake bay. So the whole idea of this is very simple. We're going to have a series of pumps located in this corner. They pump the water out of this container. The water from the pond wants to refill it. So there's going to be a constant suction of water coming in. On the surface of our aqua blocks is going to be some large cobblestone that's going to act as the pre-filter. From there, the water will be discharged all the way up to the top. There's Brent. He's getting some pictures and video as well. What we have to do, excavate this out approximately 30 inches below the water level of the pond. Looks like really good clay down inside of here, which is a good sign, but we will see what happens to the soil once we get a little bit deeper. Starting to thaw out a little bit. Thankfully, subsoil is pretty solid, so we got a really nice structural clay here. Really good working material, which is good to see. I didn't know what we were going to hit on the bottom, so it's always nice to be pleasantly surprised, especially given the fact of the other projects I've been working on recently have not gone smoothly. We are right now just about 30 inches below water level of the pond, and we have 0 water infiltration. We're going to level this out. We're going to put a layer of our geotextile down, and then we're going to put a layer of 1.5-inch crushed stone on the very, very bottom. That'll create a good bedding material. We'll put our aqua blocks in place, and we'll use more of the 1.5-inch stone to go around the outside perimeter of the aqua blocks. The idea behind that, very, very simple. We want to put the aqua blocks under compression. That's when they're their strongest. You see this big wall over here, sheer wall of clay. So there's going to be a big push. There's a lot of pressure. So up above here, we're actually about 13 feet from water level. So that means we're 2.5 feet below that. So all of this material is putting pressure on the earth and it wants to push. So as soon as you do an excavation, that pressure is going to start breaking pieces away because that bottom section has a lot of pressure on it. The layers of geotextile will help to spread the weight out. The crushed gravel, the blocks themselves, all of that stuff work together as a solid unit to create the desired structural capacity for this project. All right, this is the section we're working on right now. Pond level over on one side. Our excavation is 2.5 to 3 feet below water level. We left a ridge in between because we don't want this to flood with water. We want dry working conditions. We're gonna have some of our crushed stone on the bottom, layer of geotextile, and we put our aqua blocks in place. Our excavation is a minimum of 13 feet from the pond edge towards the back. It's 18 feet long in the other direction. So 13 feet, our aqua blocks are actually 11.25 feet. So that's gonna give us 8 inches, 10 inches of gravel around the outside edge. That's gonna put everything in compression the way I was talking about earlier. Because remember, this whole slope over here, we have a lot of pressure right down here at this lowest point. The weight of all this soil, as well as this entire hillside, is literally pushing right down in here, and we want to make sure everything's locked in place. So that's one of the keys to a successful installation. We are staging the topsoil in a separate location off on the side because that's a little bit better. We could use that to kind of top dress everything else. So our next steps, finish this, make sure that that bottom elevation is set where we want it. If it's deeper than 2.5 feet, all I'm gonna do is add in more crushed stone. So that's gonna give us a lot of flexibility. Important thing to remember is the top of the aqua block, we want 12 to 18 inches below water level. So right now, if it's at 30 inches, we're right at that 12-inch layer. So that means we're gonna have 12 inches of water flowing in for our pumps. So here's some of the stone that we're going to be working with. We got the original 2 loads of weathered limestone. This is more of the outcropping stuff. We will be using this material kind of to set a series of terraces along the back edge of the pond. So that material is going to get used up first. We do have more larger material coming in for some of the bigger elevation change, and that's going to look more like this type of stuff. 1 rock per pallet. The nice thing about this type of stone, the weathered limestone, comes in relatively uniform pieces. What I love about it is all of this. All of that life growing on top of this. So all of the moss, the lichens, all of that stuff has existing life forms on it. So it's just going to help naturalize everything. This material also is very, very porous. So it soaks up moisture. That allows these mosses and everything to grow. So as the rock soaks up moisture, it'll hold it for extended periods of time. Just want to show you some of the more of the materials here. This is our 1.5 inch. So this is called CA5. Wash gravel, there are no fines in this. This will be used at the base of the aqua blocks to set a nice structural layer on top of our fabric. It will also be used around the outside perimeter of the aqua blocks. What I like about this material is the size. Also, because it has no fines, instant compaction. By having that 1.5 inch size, this will not go through the aqua blocks. So we have approximately 22 tons sitting here on site. All right, the excavation is nearly complete. We got a big pile of soil. We keep pulling that away. What we're trying to do is lower some of this elevation. We're gonna help kind of alleviate some of those really tall walls, and we're gonna put in a series of terraces in here. We've completely eliminated this one section just to open everything up, and that's from more of a design perspective, just because we're trying to keep a really nice low profile here. From here, we're gonna redirect the stream bed. Stream bed's gonna come in this section. I wanna build a little bit of a peninsula out here. And the reason I'm saying all this is not an ideal location for a stream to come in right next to the intake bay. Because what happens is we're going to be pumping water out of that. It's going to go up to the top. It's going to come down a series of waterfalls, swirl its way around all this stuff. I don't want it to shortcut and just go directly back in. What I want to have happen is I want to push this water out along this direction and then start sweeping the stuff into that corner. That'll help with the overall circulation of the pond. Ideally, we would have been able to set this up differently. It was kind of cost prohibitive on this particular project, so we're trying to make the best of the situation that we have here. Again, on a project like this, the customer is paying for a specific look. We want to make sure that we deliver on all fronts from a functional standpoint as well as aesthetics. It's a big moment for us. Excavation's complete. What I want to do is I want to try to get the gravel down in the bottom and the aqua blocks so we could start to stabilize the structure. And that's because we're still getting stuff collapsing in on the edges. So I want to lock all that stuff in place before we keep digging. I don't have a rubber liner going in here because this is a water holding system. Solid clay. He has a constant inflow of water coming from over here. Let's take a walk. I will show you that. It has not rained or had any precipitation, and that never stops. So we have a constant feed of water coming in. Now this is kind of a mess, so we are going to try to fix this up as well. Rocks are moving, slipping, sliding. We're going to dress all this stuff up with some nice outcropping stone. But that's a separate thing. We have a constant feed of water coming in, which is nice because that means we don't have to worry about that fluctuating water level, because that could cause problems for pumps, because if the water level ever drops too low, that would restrict the water flow going to the pumps. This application, we're good. We have our CA5 gravel. Dump that material down in the bottom. We have a geotextile fabric down in here just to keep all of that stuff from disappearing down into the mud. So we're gonna have 4 to 6 inches minimum gravel. In certain areas we'll have well over a foot. And that's because we have our pump vaults here. I'm gonna have large aqua blocks right next to the pump vaults. So that'll be 18 inches tall. And then we're gonna have a step. It's gonna go down to small aqua blocks on that far edge over there. The reason we're doing that is we wanna have a big catchment area. So by using the small aqua blocks in a higher number of them, that's going to give us a bigger footprint. A bigger footprint is beneficial, is it's going to create a bigger catchment area for debris. So the key to this is low maintenance. We want to create a system that's going to be low maintenance for our customer. We're going to start layering that material in. I'm going to set my pump vaults, start setting all those aqua blocks into position. All right, so we have our 1.5 inch gravel down on the bottom. What we're gonna do now is we're gonna check some elevations. We're gonna put our pump vaults in place, and we wanna line everything up so all the elevations work with the existing water level. So we set all that stuff the other day. But what I wanna show right now is also our pump vault. You can see we have a couple of these extensions on here. We're gonna set these up. You see we have one of our large aqua blocks right here, and I will show this once it's down inside. These are designed for structural integrity, but we are gonna set them up so we want it to look just like that underground. So what we have to do is we have to play around and manipulate the gravel bed to make this all work. What happens is all the water goes down through the aqua blocks, then it's gonna make its way through these little slots over here. These are designed for a specific flow rate. You can go up to a maximum of 500 gallons a minute. Now if you start going to 500 gallons a minute, you can see these are open slots. There's another set back over here on the back side. If you're going at 500 GPM, you need to come in here and cut those out to allow more water flow. We're not gonna be at that capacity here, so I'm not too worried about it. It is a nice safety though. As you can see, this is obviously slightly deeper. This we call a foot. This is actually 7 inches tall. This is going to allow the pump intake to be at the necessary depth below water. So that ensures that the pump is always covered in water, and that will allow our water level actually to fluctuate inside of here. So the idea behind all this is going to act as a pre-filter. All the water is going to get drawn down through a layer of river rock on top, go down through the aqua blocks, and make its way over into our pump vault. So it's actually really, really simple, but you have a lot of pieces to put together. The more time you spend doing the preparation, obviously the easier it's going to be for the overall installation. So I think we've done a good job up to this point. We have our fabric in place, gravel. Now we're going to start assembling all the rest of the pieces, and we'll be in good shape. I hope you all enjoyed this intake bay project. There are a lot of these natural ponds out there, but the challenge with them all is there's not an easy way to manage the water. By putting in an intake bay, you're putting in a pumping system that works. It's gonna draw water in, it's gonna collect debris, and then from there, it's gonna distribute that water to strategic locations in and around the pond, whatever it happens to be. It's gonna give you better water quality, and then your maintenance is gonna drop down. So stay tuned for part 2 as you see exactly how we put one of these together.